The teacher really emphasizes how powerful, simple immersion can be.
It's fascinating because it goes against what we think about when we learn a language. Like,
Yeah.
we often get bogged down with textbooks and grammar drills.
Right.
But this teacher reminds us that, we all learned our first language just by listening and absorbing.
Yeah.
Think about how a baby learns to speak.
Right.
They don't have grammar textbooks or vocabulary flashcards.
Wow.
They just listen to the world around them.
That's so true.
Yeah.
I remember watching my niece learn to talk.
Okay.
It was amazing how she just picked up words and phrases by hearing them over and over again.
Right.
It really highlights how our brains are wired.
And even repeating phrases to practice pronunciation.
I think we can all relate to zoning out while watching TV or listening to music.
Right.
But if we can be more present and attentive,
Yeah.
we'll get so much more out of the experience.
Absolutely turn passive listening into an active learning opportunity.
Yeah.
Now, the teacher also acknowledges that speaking can be one of the biggest hurdles
Oh, yeah.
for English learners.
For sure.
It's that fear of making mistakes, sounding awkward, or being judged that holds a lot of people back.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah.
I remember when I first started learning Spanish,
Okay.
I was terrified to speak.
Right.
I would rehearse entire conversations in my head, but when it came time to actually open my mouth, I would freeze up.
I think that's a common experience.
It is.
Yeah. But here's where the teacher's advice gets really interesting.
Okay.
They encourage us to reframe our relationship with mistakes.
Okay.
Instead of seeing them as failures,
Right.
we should view them as valuable stepping stones
Okay.
on the path to fluency.
That's such a great mindset shift
Yeah.
because let's be honest, everyone makes mistakes, even native speakers.
All the time.
Yeah,
It's part of the learning process.
for sure.
The teacher points out that mistakes are actually how our brains learn and adapt.
Yeah.
When we make a mistake, our brain takes note and adjusts its approach, gradually improving our accuracy over time.
Okay.
They even suggest seeking out opportunities to practice speaking,
Okay.
knowing that those early, sometimes awkward conversations are paving the way for greater fluency down the road.
So it's almost like we need to embrace those awkward moments and see them as opportunities for growth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the teacher offers some really practical strategies for getting over that initial fear of speaking.
Okay.
One that stood out to me was the idea of talking to yourself in English.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Like having full-blown conversations with myself in the mirror?
Mm-hmm.
I'll admit that sounds a little strange.
It might feel a little silly at first,
Yeah.
but it's a surprisingly effective way to build confidence and fluency.
Okay.
Think of it as a safe space to practice without judgment.
Right.
You can try out different phrases, experiment with pronunciation, and even work on your storytelling skills.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
I can see how it could be helpful to practice in a low-pressure environment
Right.
before having to speak in front of others.
And another technique the teacher suggests is finding a speaking partner, someone you can practice with regularly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It could be a friend, family member, fellow language learner, or even a language exchange partner online.
Right.
The key is to find someone who's supportive, patient, and willing to practice with you consistently.
Now, speaking of pushing past our comfort zones,
Yes.
this teacher also introduces the concept of thinking in English.
Oh,
I have to admit, this one always felt a bit intimidating to me.
I understand why. It
Yeah.
can seem like a daunting task to rewire your brain
Right.
to think in a different language.
Yeah.
But the teacher breaks it down into manageable steps,
Oh.
starting with something as simple as narrating your daily activities in English.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this narrating technique.
It's a way to immerse yourself in the language, even when you're not actively studying or speaking.
Right.
As you go about your day, try describing what you're doing in your head
Okay.
using simple English phrases.
Okay.
For example, instead of thinking I'm making breakfast,
Right.
you could think I'm cooking eggs and toast.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
I can see how that would start to create a more English-centric thought process.
Right.
Yeah. It's like you're constantly practicing the language,
Exactly.
even in the most mundane moments.
Yeah, it's about making English a part of your internal dialogue,
Right.
not just something you use in specific situations.
Yeah.
The teacher also suggests using mental labeling, which means associating English words with objects that you see around you.
So if I see a lamp, I would think lamp in English instead of my native language.
Precisely. It's a subtle shift,
Yeah.
but it can have a powerful impact on your ability to think in English.
These are some really insightful tips.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see how all these little techniques can work together to build a solid foundation for speaking English more confidently.
That's exactly the point.
Yeah.
It's not about finding one magic solution, but about creating a holistic approach
Right.
that incorporates listening, speaking, and thinking in English.
Yeah.
And you know what? The teacher also emphasizes the importance of making the learning process enjoyable.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Learning a language should be fun, not a chore.
Right.
If you're dreading your study sessions, you're less likely to stick with them.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about some of the ways the teacher suggests we can inject some fun into our English practice.
Yeah. So one of the things this teacher really emphasizes is, like tapping into those things you already enjoy doing.
Right.
And finding ways to do them in English.
Okay.
For example, if you love watching movies.
Challenge yourself to watch them with English subtitles.
Okay.
Or even try watching without subtitles once you feel more comfortable.
Yeah, that's a great tip.
Yeah.
I used to do that with foreign films, and it really helped me pick up new vocabulary and get a feel for the natural rhythm of the language.
Exactly. And the teacher also talks about the power of music.
Right.
Music is such a universal language.
It is.
And it can be a really fun and effective way to learn English.
Yeah.
They suggest listening to English songs and paying attention to the lyrics, even singing along to practice pronunciation.
Oh, that reminds me of, I was learning the song in French.
Okay.
And I didn't even realize I was learning new vocabulary and grammar.
Yeah.
But it just kind of seeped in through the music.
It's amazing how our brains can absorb information when it's presented in an engaging and enjoyable way.
It really is.
The teacher also highlights the incredible resource we all have at our fingertips, the internet.
Oh, absolutely. There are countless websites, apps, and online communities dedicated to helping people learn English.
There are so many great resources available online these days.
Yeah.
You can find everything from interactive grammar lessons and vocabulary builders to language exchange platforms.
Right.
And online communities where you can connect with other English learners.
It's like having a whole world of English learning opportunities at your fingertips.
Yeah.
The teacher even suggests incorporating social media into your learning routine.
Right.
They talk about following English-speaking accounts that interest you, engaging in conversations, and even trying to write posts or comments in English.
That's such a smart idea.
Yeah.
It's a way to immerse yourself in the language and culture in a way that feels natural and organic.
Right.
It's not like you're sitting down with a textbook.
Yeah.
You're just scrolling through your feed and learning along the way.
It's sneaky learning at its best.
It is.
And the teacher also mentions the benefits of playing games in English, like word games, board games, or even video games.
Oh, yeah. Games can be such a fun and engaging way to learn.
Yeah.
I used to love playing Scrabble, and it really helped expand my vocabulary.
It's amazing how much you can learn without even realizing you're studying.
It is.
The key takeaway is to find activities that you genuinely enjoy.
Right.
And find ways to do them in English.
Okay.
It's about making the learning process a part of your life, not a separate chore.
Right.
That you have to check off your to-do list.
Yeah, so true. It's about finding those little moments throughout the day where you can connect with the language in a way that feels authentic and meaningful to you.
Exactly.
Now, earlier we talked about the challenge of thinking in English.
Yes.
I know it can seem daunting, but the teacher really breaks it down into manageable steps.
Right.
They suggest starting small.
Yeah.
With things like narrating your daily activities or mentally labeling objects in English.
Those are great starting points.
Yeah.
And as you get more comfortable, you can start challenging yourself to think in English for longer periods.
Okay.
The teacher talks about trying to have entire conversations with yourself in your head.
Wow.
Using English to work through problems.
Right.
Or even dream in English.
Wow, dreaming in English, that's an ambitious goal.
Yeah.
But I love the idea of pushing yourself to think in the language as much as possible.
It's about training your brain to see English as a natural way to express yourself.
Right.
Not just a foreign language you're trying to learn.
Right.
And the teacher emphasizes that this shift takes time and practice.
Yeah.
There will be moments of frustration, times when you feel like you're not making progress.
Sure.
But they encourage us to be patient with ourselves.
Okay.
To celebrate the small victories and keep pushing forward.
It's that reminder to embrace the journey, not just focus on the destination.
Exactly.
The teacher also talks about the importance of setting realistic goals.
Yes.
And celebrating your progress. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's so crucial. When you set goals that are too big or too ambitious, it can be easy to feel overwhelmed and discouraged.
Yeah.
But when you break down your learning process into smaller, more manageable steps, it becomes much easier to stay motivated and track your progress.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like climbing a mountain.
Yeah.
If you only focus on reaching the summit, you'll miss out on the beauty and satisfaction at each step along the way.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And the teacher also encourages us to be specific with our goals.
Okay.
Instead of just saying, I want to be fluent in English, try setting smaller, more actionable goals.
Okay.
Like, I want to be able to have a 5-minute conversation about my hobbies in English.
Right.
Or I want to be able to understand a short news article without using a dictionary.
Those are great examples.
Yeah.
And I think it's also important to celebrate those little wins along the way.
Yes.
Every time you achieve a goal, no matter how small, take a moment to acknowledge your progress and reward yourself.
Those little celebrations can make a huge difference in keeping you motivated.
For sure.
And engaged in the learning process.
Yeah.
They reinforce the idea that you're capable of achieving your goals and that the journey itself can be enjoyable and rewarding.
Right.
Now, the teacher also spends quite a bit of time talking about the importance of writing as part of the language learning journey.
Yeah, writing often gets overlooked.
It does.
But it's such a valuable tool for improving your grammar, expanding your vocabulary, and developing your overall fluency.
The teacher emphasizes that you don't have to be a novelist to benefit from writing in English.
Right.
They suggest starting with the simple activities like keeping a daily journal, writing short stories, or even composing emails or social media posts in English.
I love the idea of keeping a journal.
Yeah.
It's a great way to practice expressing your thoughts and feelings in English.
Right.
And it's a nice way to track your progress over time.
Exactly. And the teacher also encourages us to find creative ways to incorporate writing into our daily lives. They suggest things like writing shopping lists in English, composing to-do lists, or even leaving notes for ourselves or family members in English.
It's about finding those little opportunities to practice the language in a way that feels natural.
Exactly.
And integrated into your daily routine.
Yeah.
And as you get more comfortable with writing, you can start challenging yourself with more complex tasks, like writing essays, articles, or even creative pieces like poems or short stories.
It's all about pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone and exploring the different ways you can use English to express yourself.
This teacher really has a knack for breaking down seemingly daunting tasks.
They do.
Into manageable steps. They make it feel like learning English is an exciting adventure, not a chore.
That's the beauty of their approach.
Yeah.
They combine practical strategies with a positive and encouraging mindset, making the learning process both effective and enjoyable.
I'm really enjoying this deep dive into their teaching philosophy.
Yeah, me too.
It's so inspiring and motivating.
Yeah.
As we've been exploring all these different techniques and strategies,
I
keep thinking back to the teacher's analogy of learning English as building a house.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah.
I love how it emphasizes the importance of a strong foundation.
Right.
You wouldn't try to build a house on shaky ground, would you?
Definitely not.
No.
And just like a house needs a solid foundation, our English skills need a strong base of grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation.
Yeah, the teacher really stresses the importance of mastering the fundamentals before moving on to more complex structures.
It's like learning the alphabet before trying to write a novel.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's tempting to want to jump ahead and start speaking fluently right away.
Right.
But the teacher reminds us that rushing the process can actually hinder our progress in the long run.
They say it's better to build slowly and steadily, ensuring that each brick is laid properly and securely. I love how that analogy emphasizes the importance of patience and persistence in language learning.
It's a great reminder that we're in this for the long haul.
Yeah.
And just like building a house, learning a language is an ongoing process.
Yeah.
There's always something new to learn, something to improve upon.
The teacher encourages us to embrace that journey of continuous learning, to see every challenge as an opportunity for growth, and to celebrate every milestone along the way.
Speaking of milestones, one of the things I really appreciated about this teacher's approach is their focus on setting achievable goals and celebrating progress.
Absolutely.
They talk about breaking down big goals into smaller, more manageable steps,
Mm-hmm.
and acknowledging those little wins along the way.
I think that's so crucial for staying motivated and building confidence.
Yeah.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed when you're only focused on the end goal of fluency. But when you break it down into smaller steps, it suddenly feels much more attainable.
Right? It's like that saying, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Exactly.
We need to give ourselves permission to learn at our own pace.
Yeah.
And to appreciate the progress we're making, even if it feels slow or incremental.
The teacher also talks about the importance of finding your why,
Okay.
the reason you're learning English in the first place.
Right.
What are some of the reasons they mention?
Well, they talk about the obvious things like wanting to travel the world,
Right.
advance your career, or connect with people from different cultures.
Uh-huh.
But they also highlight some deeper motivations,
Okay.
like wanting to challenge yourself, expand your horizons,
All right.
or simply gain a deeper appreciation for the beauty and complexity of language.
Those are all wonderful reasons.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to keep that why front and center
Yeah.
throughout your learning journey.
For sure.
When you have a clear sense of purpose, it's easier to stay motivated when things get tough.
Absolutely. It's like having a compass that guides you through the ups and downs of language learning.
Exactly.
Now, the teacher also emphasizes the importance of finding what works for you, what they call your learning style.
They say there's no one-size-fits-all approach to language learning.
Right.
What works for one person might not work for another.
Right.
It's about experimenting with different methods and resources
Yeah.
and finding what resonates with you.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Some people might learn best through traditional methods like textbooks and grammar exercises,
Right.
while others might thrive in a more immersive environment like watching movies or listening to music.
The teacher encourages us to be curious,
Yeah.
to explore different avenues, and
Oh.
to find what sparks our joy and keeps us engaged in the learning process.
For sure.
They even suggest incorporating things like art music or physical activity into our English practice,
Right.
finding those creative outlets that help us connect with the language in a more holistic way.
I love that it's about making English a part of your life, not just a subject you study in isolation.
Exactly.
And, speaking of integrating English into our lives,
Yes.
the teacher also talks about the power of visualization and imagination.
That's one of my favorite techniques.
Oh, yeah.
It's about using your mind to create scenarios where you're using English confidently and fluently.
Okay.
The teacher suggests things like imagining yourself having a conversation with a native speaker,
Right.
ordering food at a restaurant,
Uh-huh.
or giving a presentation in English.
And the more you practice those scenarios in your mind,
Yes.
the more prepared and confident you'll feel when you encounter them in real life.
Exactly. It's like giving your brain a sneak peek of what it will feel like to be fluent in English,
Right.
which helps reduce anxiety and build confidence.
And, I think that sense of confidence is key to unlocking fluency.
Absolutely.
When you believe in yourself and your ability to learn,
Yeah.
it makes the whole process so much easier and more enjoyable.
That's so true. And the teacher reminds us that we all have the potential to learn and speak English fluently. It's just a matter of finding the right approach, putting in the effort, and believing in ourselves.
This deep dive into the teacher's wisdom has been incredibly insightful and inspiring.
Yeah, me too.
I feel like I have a whole new toolkit of strategies to help me on my English learning journey.
It's been a great reminder that learning a language is a process,
Yeah.
a journey of discovery and growth.
For sure.
It's not always easy, but it's incredibly rewarding.
And the most important takeaway, I think, is that we don't have to do it alone.
Absolutely not.
There's a whole community of language learners out there
Yeah.
facing similar challenges, celebrating similar victories,
Right.
and supporting each other along the way.
That's a beautiful thought.
It is.
So to all our listeners out there who are on this incredible journey of learning English,
Yeah.
keep practicing, keep exploring, keep pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone,
Yes.
and never stop believing in your ability to achieve your goals.
We're all in this together. And remember, the world is waiting to hear your voice.
Happy learning!